The rejection came quietly, without cruelty, and yet it landed like a hammer to the chest. One moment he was sitting upright in a cold glass office, hands folded, heart pounding with hope, and the next he was walking out with the same worn folder he had walked in with, knowing that once again, he had not been chosen. Outside, the city kept moving, people rushing past with purpose, while he stood still, feeling invisible, wondering how long a man could keep believing before belief itself began to crack. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories where life turns when you least expect it, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Daniel Harper was 37 years old, a single father of a 7-year-old boy named Ethan, and the kind of man the world often overlooked. Not because he lacked talent or intelligence, but because exhaustion had carved deep lines into his face, because his suit was older than the receptionists judging him with polite smiles, and because his life did not fit neatly into impressive headlines. His wife had died 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him with grief that never fully faded and a child who depended on him for everything. Since then, Daniel had balanced parent-teacher meetings with night shifts, homework with job applications, and hope with rejection. The interview that morning had felt different at first. The company was massive, influential, the kind of place that could finally provide stability. Daniel had prepared carefully, memorizing facts, polishing his resume, rehearsing answers while making breakfast for Ethan. He had arrived early, sat quietly, and answered every question honestly. But as the panel's expression subtly cooled, he felt the familiar shift. They asked about gaps in employment, about flexibility, about long hours and sudden travel. He explained his situation calmly, without asking for pity, but he could sense their unspoken conclusion. A single father was a risk. When the final handshake came, it was courteous and final. They thanked him for his time. He thanked them for the opportunity. And just like that, another door closed. Daniel rode the elevator down slowly, watching the numbers descend as if they were counting down his remaining options. He thought of Ethan waiting at school, of the rent due soon, of the promises he made every night to keep trying. The lobby buzzed with confidence and ambition, and he felt like a ghost passing through it. As he stepped outside, he sat briefly on a stone bench, head lowered, gathering himself before heading back into the grind of survival. What Daniel didn't know was that chaos was unfolding upstairs. The CEO of the company, Marcus Caldwell, a powerful man known for his sharp instincts and relentless standards, was facing a crisis that threatened everything he had built. A critical system failure had frozen the company's flagship platform, halting operations across multiple regions. Engineers were scrambling, executives were panicking, and every passing minute was bleeding money and reputation. Marcus paced his office, jaw clenched, fury and fear battling behind his composed exterior. Daniel noticed the tension the moment he stood to leave the building grounds. Employees rushed past the glass walls, voices urgent, faces pale. He paused, instinctively drawn to the energy of the moment. Years earlier, before life unraveled, Daniel had been a systems architect, quietly brilliant, the kind who solved problems not with flash but with clarity. He had spent years fixing broken frameworks under impossible deadlines, often unnoticed, always effective. Through the glass, Daniel caught sight of a large screen displaying cascading error logs. His breath caught. He recognized the pattern instantly. It was an issue he had encountered before, rare but devastating when ignored. His mind raced, piecing together the cause, the solution forming almost effortlessly. He hesitated, knowing how absurd it would seem for a rejected candidate to step back in. But then he thought of Ethan, of responsibility, of the simple truth that he could help. Daniel returned to the reception desk, his voice calm but urgent. He explained that he had noticed the system failure and believed he knew the cause. The receptionist looked uncertain, clearly instructed to keep outsiders out during crises. But something in Daniel's tone, the quiet confidence devoid of ego, made her pause. She made a call, half expecting to be dismissed. Instead, moments later, security escorted Daniel upstairs, confusion trailing behind him like a shadow. Inside the operations room, tension crackled in the air. Marcus Caldwell stood at the center, surrounded by specialists who spoke in overlapping technical jargon without progress. When Daniel was brought in, Marcus barely glanced at him, assuming he was another consultant summoned too late. But when Daniel spoke, the room fell strangely silent. He explained the problem simply, clearly, pointing to a specific synchronization flaw triggered by a recent update. He described the fix in precise steps, not as theory, but as certainty. Marcus turned slowly, studying the tired man in the outdated suit. There was no arrogance in Daniel's posture, no desperation in his voice. Only focus. Marcus gave a curt nod, ordering his team to follow Daniel's instructions. Within seconds, commands were executed. Within moments, systems began to respond. And just like that, the error cascade stopped. The platform stabilized. Data flowed again. The crisis dissolved into stunned relief. Silence filled the room, broken only by the hum of restored servers. Marcus stared at the screens, then at Daniel, disbelief softening into something like respect. He asked who Daniel was, how he knew this. Daniel explained quietly, mentioning his background, his interview earlier that day. Recognition flickered across Marcus's face. He remembered the resume, the note about personal constraints. In that moment, something shifted. Marcus had built his empire on the idea that the best always rose to the top, that merit was obvious and uncompromising. Yet here stood proof that life was messier, that brilliance could be hidden behind grief, responsibility, and worn shoes. He asked Daniel to stay, to explain further, to help ensure the system remained stable. Daniel did, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. Hours later, when the building finally calmed, Marcus invited Daniel into his office. The city skyline glowed outside the windows, a stark contrast to the quiet gravity inside. Marcus spoke candidly, admitting the mistake his team had made in judging capability through convenience. He offered Daniel not just the job he had applied for, but a role tailored to his strengths, with flexibility, respect, and support. A role that acknowledged not only his skill, but his humanity. Daniel listened, emotions tightening his throat. He thought of the nights he had stared at the ceiling, wondering how long he could keep going. He thought of Ethan's small hand in his, trusting without question. He accepted the offer with gratitude, not triumph. Life did not magically become perfect overnight. There were still long days, school pickups, tired evenings. But there was stability now. There was dignity. Ethan noticed the change first, the lighter step in his father's walk, the way worry lines slowly softened. Weeks later, Marcus would quietly fund a childcare initiative within the company, citing productivity, though those who knew understood it was something deeper. Daniel never forgot the rejection, but he didn't resent it. It became a reminder that worth is not always recognized immediately, and that sometimes, the very moment you are dismissed is the moment you are being positioned for something greater. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories of hope alive. And before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment below with the words, "Never give up," if you believe that kindness, resilience, and second chances can still change lives.